Hey, what's up, you guys? Back in the garage today. Interesting side note, this weekend, today's Saturday, but yesterday, today, and tomorrow is the Overland Expo up in Flagstaff. And it rained today. So those two contributing factors is why I'm not out. The surrounding national forest all around Flagstaff and pretty far around gets really overrun with overlanders going to the Overland Expo West. So it's not really a weekend to go out if you like kind of solitude and being by yourself and not getting stirred up by the dust of a bunch of other people. Plus it rained just a little bit, which probably made for a really good show. Temperatures have been a lot cooler. I've actually got one of my old welding shirts on today because I got to be rolling around under. What I'm doing today is actually it's like almost 4 o'clock. It's really late in the day. What I'm doing is I got in the mail today some links. So these are from Metal Tech. These are the upper links with Johnny joints. And then these big boys, are the lower links, right? Also with ginormous Johnny joints. And then I also got a panhard adjustable track bar, panhard bar, right? So this keeps your axle centered. So when you lift it, as that bar lifts like this, it'll pull your axle one way and you'll be off center. So both the upper and lower control arms are Metal Tech up in Oregon. And then the adjustable track bar or panhard bar is an Icon one. And I got the Icon one because I couldn't find a Metal Tech one in stock. The Icon one is adjustable on the truck, meaning you don't have to take it off and spin like a Heim joint or these Johnny joints to adjust it. It's actually adjustable on the truck, which makes, you know, that fine-tune adjusting a lot easier. Plus, it was on sale. I don't know if they were trying to move the product. Metal Tech is an Icon distributor. They had it in stock, so I got all the items from Metal Tech. And man, they got here just in a couple of days from Oregon, so that was awesome. Wasn't really expecting them today, that's why I'm jumping on this. So what I'm doing is, it's on the Lexus GX470. There. I've got it back here in the old shop area. So just a little bit of background on this. When I lifted this, right, so the Lexus comes with adjustable airbag suspension in the rear only. So the front has coilovers, upper lower control arms. The rears have adjustable airbags instead of springs and shocks. So unlike my my Land Cruiser 100 series, which has AHS, automatic height adjustable suspension, it's all hydraulic. It's all different, right? This, I was concerned. I didn't know. I was hoping it wasn't the same thing. It wasn't. It was just airbags in the back. So it made it real easy. You pull the airbags out, you put coil springs in their place, done. Now, I never took out some of the other components that aren't being used, like the air compressor in the tank, which I'm going to yank them out today. So when I lifted this, the Lexus, I put on, in the front, I did brand new upper control arms, which I needed to. It's independent front suspension. New upper control arms, new coilovers, and because the lower control arms, they're pretty cheap. They're all pressed, you know, stamped metal kind of stuff. And that's where you actually adjust for your alignment. They have these bushings. The bushings are all rusted. So pretty cheap to just replace them. They weren't OEM, but they were an aftermarket one that was pretty good. It was OEM quality replacement. It wasn't some hyped up racing thing. It was an OEM quality replacement. So basically the front got upper and lower control arms and new shocks. In the back, I just put in springs and coils. When I first got this, I looked it over. I could see the control arms, the bushings were worn out. The bushings needed to be replaced. So I thought, well, instead of doing that, maybe I'll just look and see what there is in the market for control arms. Now, these upper control arms, these ones here, these are probably 2.5 times thicker than the ones that are on there. I'll show them to you when they come off. It's amazing how thin they are, right? These are the uppers. And then the lower control arms are probably twice as thick. And instead of just a front and rear bushing, they've got these Johnny joints, which is made, I believe they're made by Curry Enterprises. Johnny joints. And they're like a hybrid, right? So this, let me show you, this is a Heim joint. Right? And this is a Johnny joint. So Heim joints are traditionally used in racing. I have different Heims on the Jeep. You hear the squeaking on the Jeep? That's what those Heims do. The Heim squeak. These Johnny joints, I'm hoping, they look like they're kind of a hybrid between a Heim and a traditional rubber bushing inside there. And they've got Zerks on them for you can grease them up. So hopefully they'll be a lot quieter, which is pretty cool. The other thing is on the back of these Metaltech is they're offset. So instead of it coming straight into the bushing, it's offset. So if you're sliding along a rock, when it gets to the back, it's not going to get hung up on the bushing. I'll show you what that looks like. You see how it's offset? Instead of being here, it's moved down to here. So if you're sliding along a rock, it's going to not get hung up like this. See, this is what a traditional center mounted would look like. And then these are the offset ones. It's pretty cool, right? And like I said, this was the track bar was on sale, a couple $100 for the uppers, $350 or something for the lowers. Now in the pictures you couldn't tell just how beefy and heavy they are. These are some thick quality stuff. Was really happy when I pulled them out of the packaging. So all the stuff I could find on how to do this online, they always talk about just, you know, you do it with the car sitting on the ground. You don't jack it up or anything. And you can go through and do like one thing at a time. I jacked it up a little bit, put jack stands under the frame, and then let the jack down, and the tires are on the ground. So it's almost just like it's lifted a little bit. That should be okay. You just don't want to, when you go to tighten everything up, you kind of get everything hand tight. Get it setting back on the ground at ride height, then tighten it, then torque it. Then also that's when you want to measure your track bar. Did I mention that when I lifted this because I didn't have an adjustable track bar and I didn't do anything else to the rear, it was a 1/4 inch off. A 1/4 inch off the axle was to the passenger side, like I said. So when the bars, you want your track bar as flat as possible. So when you lift it, it does this. And when it does this, it pulls the axle with it. And it pulled the 3-inch lift on here, pulled it over a 1/4 of an inch. All right, so we're underneath. That's the front that way. This is the back. Here's the track bar right here. So it runs from the axle over to the frame. We're going to take this off, put the new one on here. It's really dark. I'm losing light. It's after 4. Right here, this is the upper control arm. I don't know if you can see how thin that is. It's thinner than my finger. That's one there, and there's one right here. This is the mount, and this is the mount. These are the uppers, really small. And then the lowers, lower control arm right there. You know what's funny is I got a ton of room in there because there's no spare tire underneath. So I got one of these finally. This is the thermocell, but this is the backpackers edition where you just hook it to one of your little like Jetboil gas thingies. Works pretty good. The first one I tried, it was like 20 bucks. I got off Amazon, was this one. This one uses like a little bottle. Now this one works great. The only problem is you got to buy, you got to buy these replacement pads, but you can buy them like 50, 60, 100 at a time. I didn't want to buy these little bottles of fuel, so I figured I always have the isobutane propane mix for the Jetboil. Thought I'd just use that. All right, so I said I'm going to get underneath there. They're all 19 millimeter bolts. So 19 on the lowers. I didn't check the uppers, but 19 on the lowers, probably the same on the track bar. And then also I looked it up. The lower control arms are we torque back to 96 foot-pounds along with the track panhard bar, and the uppers get torqued back to 59 foot-pounds. One thing to be aware of, I know this is a Land Cruiser thing, but it might be a 4Runner and an FJ thing and all that as well. When doing these in the rear and in the front, one of the two sides has these little locking tabs on it, right? So if you try and spin the nut side off, you're going to tear these up and it's going to be a lot harder. So you can start, you don't even need a backup to start it. These little, you can see little 4 hashes on there. They're kind of like a locking mechanism. Once you get it free, then you can undo this. But I know on the front it's the same way of the Land Cruiser 80. It's more obvious here because you can't really get a socket back in on the inside here because the fuel tank's in the way. But on the 80, there you can get to both sides. You got to know which is which. And then there's also a I don't know, I think this is the emergency brake cable here. It's attached to the control arm as well, so you got to take that loose. And then on the new one, they have a hole there for you to remount this. I didn't use an impact on here. I used a breaker bar and my long wrench. I sprayed it with WD-40 about, I don't know, half an hour or so before I tried to get it off. But you can see, like on this, if you spray the back side where all the gunk is, it's going to make it easier to get it out. This one actually penetrated pretty good. I can look inside the nut and see how far the WD-40 went in. Alright, so this will be our first attempt at taking one out, see if anything's going to go flying. So fine thread is always good. I see some red on here. Someone has put red Loctite on here at some point in this vehicle's life, except they put it way too far up. Needs to be out here. You can see all the red Loctite in there. Red is permanent stuff. Just gently prying here. Not a lot of force. Here's what the bushing looks like. Alright, so I am going to install the bushings on the rear here. I'm showing you guys the first one, not the second one. Usually people will do one and then they show the second one because they're all practiced up. So I am showing you the first. That way, if I have any issues, you will see them. It's something that possibly you could come across as well. I'm going to put some grease in here. Some grease in here, inside the bushing. You want to put a fair amount of grease on here. Make your bushings last longer. So put the center shaft in. Put this from underneath. These are real hard to do. You can put them in a vise. I have a vise too. You can squeeze them together with the vise. Now we take our Zerk fitting. I don't know if you want to. There's barely any threads. Traditionally, on some kind of pipe thread, you'd put on some Teflon tape, but there's not that many threads on there. This Zerk actually feels like it's aluminum, so you don't want to kill that thing on there. And I think that I'm going to grease this once it's on there, because it'll want to try and push these bushings out a little bit. And that's where you want to stop when they start to move like that. All right, now I have the control arm here that we pulled out, and there's the tab that came on the factory one. Metal Tech gives you a bracket here, and there's a threaded bolt, and it comes with a lock washer. So if you're going to use lock washers or nylock nuts, you don't need to use Loctite. Now what I'm going to do is I've got the bolts through here, and I'm going to try and get this thing to the same exact length on here. Then there's no guessing. These should be exactly the same on both sides, so we'll use the same one to adjust both of them. That looks perfect right there. So this Zerk is going to be pointing up. This Zerk will be pointing down. So what you want to do is have these slide on with no resistance. Because you could, on this Johnny joint, this pivots here, so you could force it on, but you don't want to do that. So get the back started. Look down in there, it slides on perfectly right there. So that's a good length. All right, so it went back in, no worries. I did get a little tiny ratchet strap, and I ran it over the back of the axle up to the frame here, because I was half a hole off. You know, just a little bit of pressure had let it move a little bit, but I'm sure it's the same length because I measured it against the existing one. Now here's the thing. Something I want to talk about is the grease Zerks, right? So the back one is facing up. You can't get to it right now with it installed, but it is protected. So what I did was, before I pushed this up to here, with just this laying on the ground on the 2x4, the front, I was able to reach the grease Zerk from here, and I greased it. Then I pushed this one up in. Now this grease Zerk is on the bottom. You could turn it, you know, either way, depending on looking at your distance here on the tire. If you want to move this back or forth a little bit and face that grease Zerk up. Now, it might be a good call to face it up so it's protected, because if you're going to go grease these, you're going to have to drop this front one down anyway to grease the back, and with it dropped down, you can grease the top. You can reach the top of this one. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm actually going to leave mine facing down, because I believe that I'm going to need to grease this one more than the back one, if that makes any sense. Being that this is a joint instead of just a bushing. We'll see, but that's something I wanted to mention, because looking here, you know, we're talking about sliding down these things. It doesn't stick down farther than any of the bar itself, but it is sticking down. Wouldn't take much to break that thing. So I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other side. I'm actually losing light pretty fast here, but it was real easy to switch these bottoms. The uppers are going to be harder just because they're up on top of the axle, and I'll have to work from underneath, and that's why I have it up in the air a little bit. And the track bar shouldn't be a big deal. I'll probably show the track bar, but we'll see about the other ones. I'll probably have to do those tomorrow just because I'll run out of light. All right, I got the track bar out. It actually came out super easy. 19mm bolt on one side with a nut, and on this side, I think the I think it's threaded into the bracket itself because there was no nut that fell down. This is actually pretty heavy duty. This track bar it's heavy. Almost feels solid. Now you may have seen when I showed the new Icon track bar earlier that it looked like there was a slight bend to it, and there is, and that's because this works for both the GX470 and the GX460, the newer one, with KDSS, which is kinetic, what is it called? Kinetic Dynamic Suspension System. It's like a active sway bar that goes all around the car. So the bend is right here. Now it's telling me to mount the Hyman with the adjustment on the axle side and the regular poly bushing up on the frame side. Real easy. It just swung down and pulled out. There was no pry bars, no nothing. It came out real simple. I've already greased up this side. I put in the Zerk fitting, and I'm going to go test fit it. All right, so track bar's in, real easy. It just as easy it came out, it went right back in. Nothing really to show. I can show the finished product, but I got one of the upper arms out. Look how thin that is. The difference between them it's crazy. So I lined up one of them with this, and now I'm stacking them both together. It's really tight here. There's not a lot of adjustment to go any shorter. It's about, I don't know, maybe a 32nd. These are about a 32nd of an inch longer. Just barely. Just barely. And what I need to do, and the reason why these are adjustable is when you lift it, it changes your pinion angle on your drive shaft flange at the rear end. And what you want to do is, and I have to look it up to be sure, but I'm pretty sure you want the flange angle to be the same off the transfer case as it is on the rear end. That way, the drive shaft is going to be the difference. I'm not sure what the degree is. I have to look that up. But what I want to do is I'm going to get these. I haven't had any vibration, any noise, any weird stuff after the lift with this length. So I've got these as close as possible with both the Zerks facing up so I can actually get to them. And these are set just a hair longer. They're just a little bit longer. Now it may be wrong, but and I may have to take them back off to readjust them. But for now, I got them as close as I can to these. I've got adjustments on the upper and the lower now to actually correct that pinion angle. I think they're pretty good where they're at. Pretty tight up in there. Well, I don't know if you guys heard that lightning or that thunder. But yeah, it's super raining, so I'm not actually going to be able to finish this in this video. But it wasn't a how-to video anyway. It was just kind of showing you guys what I was doing. I got everything on there. I've got the uppers, the lowers, everything's on there. The track bar's on there. I got something else special. I'll give you a sneak peek. That may or may not allegedly be an awning. Now that awning isn't specifically for this. It's for this or the 80 series. But we had the other rain that was raining. Oh my God, it's all coming in my garage. The other rain was like normal rain, just soft. This is monsoon type stuff. Some really loud thunder. Like, actually Buck got a little scared, and he usually doesn't mind the thunder. I got this giant box here. Some of the best packaging I've seen. Oh, I gotta take this box to the recycle place. I probably should bring it in. It's gonna get ruined. Anyway, because this thing's made in South Africa, it's an Australian company made in South Africa. It's got to ship from South Africa to Australia. Ship from South Africa to Australia, or ship from South Africa to the US. So they package them really good, so your stuff's gonna show up awesome. There'll be a follow-up video. What I'll probably do next weekend the next video is I'm going to take this, I'll have it done by then. I'll take it out. Hopefully I'll have try and put the awning on here, see if it fits. Then we'll go over everything I've done to this and kind of check out the setup where we're at right now. But man, it is pouring down the rain. And it's all coming in my garage because it's bouncing off the Lexus.